Now I'm just going to simply draw a simple leg here like this. Slightly wider, and here we get a little bit of the inner thigh. The muscles that run along the back of the leg, I'm going to just refer to them simply as the hamstring muscles. They attach to that point. Remember I said it comes, if you've got the pubic bone is the width of these two knuckles, and then they spread out and down, we could say that they're coming in this way and this way into these 2 points. Those 2 points of the ischium are called the sitz bones, S-I-T-Z bones. Sometimes yoga instructors will refer to them as the sit bones, which is correct. It's S-I-T-Z though. And at that point, very strong point, you get these muscles that pull down here and here, and they're kind of divided. They are called the hamstring muscles. And they give you that basic H look in the back of the leg, because the calves attach up to the upper portion of the back of the femur, the condyles. So they're doing this, and then they pull down to the heel and so on, right? And we said that where the knee is, somewhere in here, we've got from this point to this point 2 heads and 2 more to the bottom. All right. So like I say, I'm not going to give you everything, but you begin to find these things and articulate them. Up here, eventually, I might say, well, there is the olecranon, and it's pulling down to the wrist. And we see these 2 prongs that come from the humerus down like this. And they're all 3 kind of together. And we're rounding out. We see this bone clearly here into flatter and then into the wrist. So, and we've got the full length of the elbow down to the wrist. We've got the full length of the ulna, right? And so on. So we can articulate these muscles, or we can leave the simple idea, okay? Another muscle which might be important to note is one that ties in to the armpit from the back and pulls down this way. So as it does this, we're seeing a little bit of this on the outside. This is the oblique, the obliques here and here. And this is the latissimus dorsi, tying up and around. We do have some muscles in here. We've got the rhomboid muscle that pulls this way. It's allowing. See, the rhomboid muscle is really relaxed at this point. It might be involved on this side in pulling the arm back a little bit. But in this case, it's allowing the arm to go. It's not interfering. It's relaxed as this pulls up and out. Some of those muscles that pull the arm up and around are in here. I'm just giving you an idea. They are called the serratus muscles, all right? And they're underneath the pecs, which I said attach out here, right? So there, those are. We see the deltoid. There's a little bit of space right here. I'll just tone it in so that we see and experience right there. We're experiencing a bit of the articulation of the clavicle. When this goes up this way, we lose it. This becomes rounded. The pecs are pulling up and over, and they sort of merge with the deltoid coming around. And the scapula has pulled out into this new position, so we see it here. And then we see the latissimus pulling down this way, and some of the serratus muscles here as they come out from underneath the pecs, right? You've got the abdominal muscles, which are pulling down here. There are 6 above the navel, I guess referred to as the 6-pack, and it then continues down and ties in here at the pubic bone. Genitalia, below that. Okay, so we're pulling up. Again, I can take this as a simple cylinder, and then I can go into the description of how these muscles on this cylinder tie in. For instance, there's a bone here that is actually on the subscapularis region called the coracoid process, and these muscles attach to it underneath, right? So you've got the bicep, which attaches there. You've got the coracobrachialis, which ties there. And you have actually some internal pec muscles, which attach there. Internal meaning essentially they're underneath the pex major. So we've been drawing the pex major here, attaching to the outside of the humerus. So you'll notice that perhaps here we'll see a little bit of this latissimus that we see here, right? Pulling around into the oblique. In this case, the oblique is referred to, because it's rounder, the flank pad. And then we have this articulation here. It's the inguinal ligament that ties from here to here. Here's center line is the sternum into the linea alba. That is the division of this abdominal muscle as it comes down. And right in the middle of it is the navel. Like I said, point 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now notice I'm giving you some things. I'm not giving you everything. Simple measurements. The outstretched hand to the fingertip here, to this fingertip as I stretch out. Right. From the pit of the neck equals from the top of the head to the pubic bone. That means that the outstretched arms, as in the Da Vinci Vitruvian man, in the circle, are equal to the height of the body. The outstretched arms. This would be the pubic bone. This would be the top of the head. Out this way, the bottom of the foot. Right? It's an interesting way to break things down simply. We come up here, we've got bones, by the way. Elbow, the olecranon, one of the bones of the humerus, the condyles, coming off, and we're going to see in here some of the triceps disappearing in a series of muscles with zig and zag. There, actually, this muscle is attaching to the edge of the scapula. So it's coming down and attaching to this edge in here. Okay, so notice we've mentioned some key things in both of these. Those things have been conceptualized specifically for the directions that we're looking at them from. In other words, the simple ideas. For instance, the rib cage and the profile, I might take this distance from the arch, from here to here, and go, all right, we're going from there to there, from there to there. There's the sternum, and then it cuts back, so this is slightly rounded. The spine is going to be in here, and I'm not actually going to see the spine because it's in a trough. These are things we can look at later when we look at the skeleton. So this is in the trough and won't be perceived here. Now when we get to the iliac crest here, you notice I'm taking that plus the gluteus maximus down here and making the profile so much simpler than both the front and the back. I also want to come down here and make sure this more or less lines up. The way the leg fits in the front, when I did this arch, put in the inguinal ligament, about 1.5 inches down from the iliac crest, because this does this, like that. About 1.5 inches down is where the center quadricep muscle starts. And that starts where the bend of the leg would be. Not here, here. The stomach muscles, along here where the navel is, here, cut back like this. All right, just like this. Head, right? We said the occipital ridge is where the neck muscles start in the back, like that. They're going from there to there. Right. Get this, let's just do the brow. Get a basic on this, right? I'm expanding this. It started with a sphere. I'm just expanding back. It's the simplest way to start with a sphere and then expand it and then drop this up maybe, right? You get these areas. So you can make any kind of face, soft, harder, whatever. So we've got the arm. I'm not going to draw the arm in, but I'm going to draw the pecs over to where the shoulder would be. Here's where the clavicle is. This trapezius muscle, which does this here and does this here, from this view would look like something like this. I'm just going to tone it in, right? It's starting up here at the occipital ridge. It comes down and it attaches in front to the clavicle and in the back to the spine of the scapula. So it would look something like that here. Here is the mastoid bone. It is behind the ear, which, by the way, lines up like that. It's behind the ear, and from there starts the sternocleidomastoid muscle, which pulls this way. The throat muscle might be this way, or I should say the cartilage of the throat might be this way, like that. This cuts that way. So we're seeing some of the major muscles here. Cut away. All right. And down here, the obliques tying in. They, by the way, are flat up in this area and work digitally into the rib cage. Notice I'm doing this rather quickly, so I'm not taking it so seriously, but I am trying through these simple notations that we're doing to get the point, not render the point, to get the point. Simple notes, not polishing this thing. Because it doesn't matter how much you polish it, that is not going to instill this thing deeply into you. It's understanding it and trying to see how it works that makes the difference. All right? Your sense of measurement will grow the more you work with your general model. You'll become more and more articulate about how to do this. Get the idea. Notice that this arches, that this spring comes back. We're not looking for perfect drawing. We're looking for understanding. Where's the knee? Here, right? This does come down, but there's a kind of rhythmic thing that takes place. These are the quadriceps. That tensor fasciae latae muscle is in here. And this one is the gluteus medius. The gluteus maximus actually comes down. What we see here, the bottom of the buttock, is actually a fat pad. This is tying in. The tensor fasciae latae, as I said, comes down this way. The great trochanter is here. So it forms a band coming down this way. The IT band, iliotibial band, is kind of on the outside holding the quadriceps in. And it comes down and attaches down here to the tibia. All right. And behind here are the hamstrings. This band can often be mistaken for the hamstrings because it depends on how someone is standing, whether there's more emphasis on the band or more emphasis on the hamstring. The basic difference between those two is that the hamstring itself is more rope-like, and this is more belt-like. But they can switch back and forth as to which one is working, and sometimes you can see both at the same time. This attaches lower on the outside to the head of the fibula, which is the ankle on the outside of the leg. So if we come down and find the movement of the tibia along with the anticus muscle here, which rounds this out a little more along that bone line, then we can, actually I'd like to bring that back. Does this more and out. The calf muscle attaches up to the back of the femur and the condyles of the femur as they wrap back and then swing out this way. So we have this kind of rhythmic consideration here into the foot. All right, so we've got him leaning a little too far back maybe, but this is the essential idea for building a model. I'm not going to go into the legs. Take it there. So back to this portion. This is the external oblique as it fits into the ribs. You know, kind of locking into each one of those, though, is the serratus muscles, which are much more rounded. Hard for us to see this until it becomes part of the flank pad consideration. Right? Flank pad, navel, chest. All right. Okay, so much for the general model. So try to do your own. getting a set of measurements that you become comfortable with, that you begin to know, and that you can actually bring with you to the real conditions, to the wild, so to speak. You've got ideas you're bringing to the table.